We're going to look at the cosine law today. And cosine law can be used in to solve an acute right angle triangle um, when you don't have a side angle pairing and you don't have a 90-degree angle. Okay? And so cosine law, there's a couple of formulas that we need to learn and use over the course of cosine law, but it's important to know that when we use cosine law, it's for non-right angle triangles, specifically non-angle acute triangles. Okay, so non-right angle acute triangles. Okay, and if you do not have one complete ratio, if you don't have a side angle pairing, you cannot use the sine law. If you cannot use the sine law, then your other default is to use what's called the cosine law. And so really there's two formulas that we need to be aware of as we're using the cosine law. Okay, and so if you're trying to solve for a side length, okay, you're going to use a formula that looks like this, where you've got a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cos of angle A. Okay? And so that situation happens when you're trying to figure out a side length. You have to have a contained angle. So that means that you have to have one angle, okay, and you have to know what that angle is, and you have to have one side length here and one side length here. You have to know the side lengths on both sides. Okay, I like to call this the scissor pattern. Okay, this is what we call the scissor pattern. So if we have the scissors, then we're good. Okay. Okay, so if you have the scissor pattern, then you can use cosine law to find an unknown side length. If, however, you're trying to find an angle and you don't have a side angle pairing, you can use cosine law to solve for that piece as well. Okay, in that case, we're going to you need to have the measure of all three side lengths. So you need to know this side length, the length of that side, and the length of that side. Okay, so you need to have all three side lengths in order to be able to figure out an unknown angle. Okay, so you have to have uh, that. Okay, and so this will allow you to solve for x for side length, and this will allow you to solve for actually any one of the three inside angles. Okay, so again, quick recap. To solve for a side length, you need to have the opposite angle and the other two side lengths. If you want to solve for an unknown angle, you can solve for any of the three unknown angles if you have all three side lengths. Now, the formula that you see here for side length and also for measuring an unknown angle, those are specific formulas for different side lengths. So, for example, to find the side length using this formula above that starts with the a squared, that means that this is angle A, this is angle B, this is angle C, and the unknown side length is A. Okay? Uh, if you're trying to figure out unknown angle B, you need to shift the scissor pattern to the top. Okay? And then instead of having A squared, you're going to make it B squared. Okay? For solving an unknown angle, again, if you have angle A, B, and C, and you know side length A, C, and B, this formula here will allow you to solve for that angle. Just like this formula here will allow you to solve for that side length. Okay, so it's important to know which formula is for which piece. Okay. Now, if you're trying to solve for a different angle or a different side length, you have to modify the formula slightly. So if we rewrite this formula, let's say I wanted to find the length of side B. I'm going to follow the same pattern as up above. If I wanted to solve for side B, that's actually B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times cos B. If I wanted to solve for side C, again, similar pattern, I'd actually be looking for C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times cos C. If I wanted to find an angle that's not angle A, then let's say if I wanted to find angle B, the formula would be cos B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus B squared, all divided by 2AC. And if I want to solve for angle C, you'd be using cos C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared, all divided by 2AB. Now, that's a lot of formulas. And the reality is that you will be given those formulas or those basic formulas for both finding an unknown side length and finding an unknown angle. But you should also be aware that it is perfectly acceptable to change the labeling on a triangle to make it more palatable to you. So for example, if you get a triangle that's labeled XYZ and you are more comfortable with labeling ABC, you are welcome to relabel the triangle, just so long as you relabel it in such a way that you are solving for the appropriate angle or the appropriate side length.